My father was a fisherman. He learned the trade at a young age. He passed that along to me and my brothers. We was on the water a lot. My weekends, my holidays, my summers was most times, 70, 80% of the time on a boat, fishing. I can't imagine growing up anywhere else.
Faster, Kenny. Turn it on, Josh. We need some long 5/8, Kenny. Speed it up a tiny bit. Hold it.
If you're gonna do this, make a living at it, it's gonna be hard work. You really have to love it and be able to do this, because at the end of the day, a lot of times, it's the struggle to make a living. Your heart needs to be into it. If your heart's not in it, you're not gonna make it. My father, he taught us boys, family always be first, then community and fishing. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I remember the first time I ever flew on an airplane. As we flew across the country, I remember looking out the window the whole time, my nose just pressed against the glass, sort of surveying the land below me. I remember having this strange sense of duty to dedicate myself in some way to helping.
Opioid addiction reaching epidemic levels.
Moving fire to parts of California. Breaking news, at least 9 people killed overnight in a massacre.
As I grew older, I ended up raising a family and becoming a lawyer and ultimately becoming CEO of Chipotle Mexican Grill.
And it's a vision to change food culture.
One of the things I liked best was interacting with thousands and thousands of people over the years and really getting to know them. Loads of different people from very different walks of life. The more I got to know, the more convinced I was that, man, we're all very much the same in so many ways. And you wouldn't know that from what we see on TV or hear on the radio. All that stuff suggests that we're very divided, that we're not united at all, that we're all about disagreement, that we're all about arguing, that we're all about fighting. But I think the truth is just the opposite. There's a great deal more that unites us. What I want to do with this docuseries is to tell the stories of people who might never be seen or heard, and to help bring the wisdom from many people from many different walks of life so that everyone has access to it. In some ways, I'm still just that small boy with my nose pressed against the glass, looking down at this beautiful place we all live, and wanting to do some good. Wanting to demonstrate that there's a lot more that unites us than divides us. I'm not entirely sure what it is that draws me to Port Clyde, this living postcard. This tiny enclave nestled into the coastline of northeastern Maine. Maybe it's the paradoxical inner warmth I've always felt looking out over the cold, rough sea, or my desire to find out who lives in these idyllic homes nestled along the rocky coast. Or to learn more about how, generation after generation, strong-willed fishermen carve out a living from these cold waters, harvesting the lobster and fish which lie beneath cresting waves and cold winds. I've heard of many issues which bring struggle to this part of our country. declining fishing stocks, making a hard living even more of a struggle. Highly disputed government regulations and quotas, which try to balance the livelihoods of today with the fisheries of the future. Injuries and disabilities from dangerous work, and even souls lost at sea. But what draws so many to stay here, to follow in their parents' footsteps, to choose a life of challenge and hardship? What is the allure of the sea?
Now you're gonna be in there now, Remy. My
I
cousin.
imagine you know pretty much everyone around here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knows everybody, small community like this.
What's it like living in a small community like that?
I'd love it. You know, everybody looks out for each other, you know, and usually if anybody has an issue or problem, we're always there to help them. We do benefits if family has trouble. You know, no matter if you're in a fishing family or not, actually. But I think growing up here was, I can't imagine growing up anywhere else. As a child growing up, a young kid or a young boy, you couldn't go wrong. Had plenty stores stop by, get candy and whatnot. But with me and my brothers and the other fisherman family, we was on the water a lot, fishing at a very young age. My first 2-day trip was 5 years old.
Oh, wow.
Overnight trip.
And was that by choice? You wanted to be on the water?
I wanted to go. My father says, I'm going to take Randy. My mother had a meltdown,
Did she?
but my father won at the end of the day, and I went.
Now, starting at 5 years old, were you helping out?
Not at that age, no.
Yeah.
I started helping out between 8 and 10 years of age,
Okay.
especially at 10. I was able to run winches like on a boat like this at 12. My first tow behind the wheel and actually bringing a boat in that size to the dock was 12 years old.
Oh my gosh, that size at 12?
That size, man.
Were you nervous?
Oh yeah, my father, it was pretty ironic. They teach you how to do things and you watch, of course. The way it was done back then in my family anyways, and I think how it was done by my father did it with me, there was no warning. So he would, I still remember that day. He grabbed that milk crate and he says, there you go, son. We was outside the hive. He says, you take her home. And he walked right out of the wheelhouse, never looked back.
Wow.
He says, I've already taught you how to do it.
Wow. And so you were nervous?
Oh, yeah.
But you were determined, weren't you?
Oh, yeah.
You were going to do a good job.
I brought her in, yeah.
How did it go?
It went real well. I didn't hit the dock.
Good
Didn't
landing?
break anything.
My grandfather and I, we had a couple traps out from the time I was 6 years old. By 10 years old, I had a 16-foot lap streak skiff with a 10-horse Evinrude. And I had my own traps here in the harbor. And especially in the summertime, my buddy, he had a boat and an outboard, and we'd be out in the harbor hauling our own gear, and we'd haul alongside of each other.
At 16?
No, at 10.
Oh, at 10?
Yeah, the boat was 16 feet.
Oh, okay, I got the numbers
Yeah.
mixed up. So at 10 years old,
10 years
you had
old.
your own 16-foot boat with a 10-horse Evinrude,
Yeah.
and you're out hauling traps.
Yeah, but my grandfather was the one that taught me fishing.
Okay.
And once he took me aboard of a boat the first time, then they couldn't stop me. My grandfather was everything to me. You know, when you're in high school and senior year, they get the yearbook out and they say, well, what's your ambition? What do you want to do? And everybody's put what they thought they wanted to do in life, and mine was the same. They said, be the youngest captain on the coast. And that was it. And that was all I cared about, was fishing. When I was on the water and in a boat by myself, there was a freedom that was mine. That was, you know, I didn't have to, even my mother wasn't there. She'd try to tell me what to do, but when I got out in that boat, nobody was gonna tell me what to do. It's a freedom to be able to run your life, and you know what you wanna do. The salt water is kind of, I guess it's bred into you, When you grow up here, not everybody, but for me, it was fishing. That's all I wanted to do. It was the ocean. It was just the whole thing.
So talk a little bit more about growing up here. Like, what kind of community was it? What was it like growing up with it? Fisherman father, fisherman mother?
Fishing village, plain simple, fishing village.
And what was that like?
It was, man, it was great. I loved it.
What made it so great?
Well, back then, it was busy in what you see now. There was actually more fishing, more working docks than what you see now.
Is that right?
And with that said, there was definitely more natives in town working 12 months out of the year with these factories. You know, these factories probably employed 200 to 300 people.
Oh, wow.
So it was a tight-knit community. You know, this town had, when I was a young fella walking around town, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stores. Five general stores, you imagine it? In
Right
a small
here,
community
in Port Clyde.
That's how busy it was from fishing.
What did it used to be like lobster fishing, 50 years ago?
Oh, hell,
60 years ago?
Oh, hell, we used to haul twice a day back then, in the morning and in the afternoon.
Okay, so you'd put your traps in the morning and pull them out
Yeah,
full of lobster.
Yeah.
You put them back in,
Yeah.
and you pull that same trap out that same afternoon full of lobster
Yeah,
again.
Yeah, we used to do that.
And you get just as many in the afternoon.
Yeah, you would. People today, they don't seem to realize that, I don't think.
So there was loads more lobster back then.
Oh, of course there was. A lot of lobster. A lot more fishermen nowadays, and they're just taking too much out of the water. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. But it's your opinion after being on the water for a lot of years.
Well, I've been around the water for a lot of years, because since I was a little fellow.
Your mother's 100 years old.
That's right.
And she must have worked hard her whole life.
Oh, Jesus, I guess she has.
Hasn't done her any harm, has it?
Christ, no. Christ, she used to dig clams and do everything.
Dug clams.
Oh, yeah. Lobster.
Fish lobster.
Yeah. Yeah,
Do you admire her?
yeah, mother do.
We used to have hootenannies. That used to be fun. They called them hootenannies. That's when the whole town would get together and have a big party up here at the ball field. We had a ball field in the center of town, baseball field.
What else was it like to be the son of a fisherman?
He taught us boys, whatever you catch, whatever you kill, you harvest it, you eat it, you utilize it. You never waste anything. And throwing garbage overboard, no. You never pollute the ocean that you're trying to make a living from. You never polluted anything, that's how we was raised.
So respect for the ocean?
Respect the land and the ocean.
Yeah.
We wasn't the type you throw garbage here at the dock or driving down the road. It was the same scenario out on the ocean.
Yeah.
We respect that ocean. You're trying to make a living from that, and plus you need to leave something behind for the next guy when you're done.
Yeah.
Right? You need to pass along. You want to leave something behind. You don't want to ruin it for the next generation.
I feel at peace when I'm at the water. They say that if you're around the ocean a lot, or if you grew up on the water, or you live on the water, you live for a very long time. And I think it's just this special magic that the ocean has.
So is this your boat?
This is.
So
yes.
cool.
Yes, this was my grandfather's boat.
Really?
Actually. Yes.
That's so awesome.
I bought it from my grandmother after he passed away. Yeah, I've been doing this quite a while now, so yeah, I don't know if I'd want to do anything else.
Yeah, it's awesome. How many days a week do you usually go out?
Usually 4 or 5.
Uh-huh.
This spring, I was hauling through in 2 days. So I was hauling like 350 one day and 350 the next day.
What does that mean? Pots? 350 pots?
Yeah.
And how do you know whose is whose? Just different colors, or like is some guy red and some guy blue? And is that the deal?
Yes, everyone's buoys are colored differently.
What color are yours?
Mine are white.
All white?
All white with a yellow spindle.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
And like if someone sees that buoy, they're like, oh, that's Cresta's.
Yeah.
Like you all know each other?
Yes.
Okay, so it's like...
Everyone knows everyone in this small town. I'm gonna get geared up and put my gloves on and
Okay, cool.
put my grunnins on, and
awesome.
Show you how to do it. I know you're tall, but I think those will fit, hopefully. You might be able to adjust them a little bit
Let's see.
so they fit.
Just go right in from the top.
Yep. They might be a little tight. I might even have a pair of gloves for you, too.
Right on.
You want to get your hands dirty?
Cool, sure.
Okay. So I'm just going to move this hot water tank in a little bit. And there's our first buoy.
Oh yeah, there it is.
So it's a little bit...
White with yellow.
Yeah.
Do I just grab it?
Go ahead and grab it.
Underneath?
Sure.
Like that?
Yeah.
What do I do?
And then you put it in the hauler. There, unhook it.
All right, in here?
Yeah. And you put it, wrap it under here.
Under here?
Yeah. And there you go. That's all there is to it.
Oh,
And then I
that's cool.
usually dunk it in the hot water.
Here it is.
There we go.
Oh, there's a crab in there.
These are some old traps of my grandfather's. I've been patching them up ever since I got them. So what you're gonna do is turn the trap this way
Okay.
and open it up and take all the lobsters out.
And where do you want them?
And the culling box here.
Where? Here?
Yep. And then I throw the crabs overboard.
Okay. Is this guy, even the little ones, that big enough?
No, he's pretty small.
How do you tell?
So how you measure? We keep anything that is 3/4 of an inch to 5 inches.
3 and 3 1/4?
3 1/4.
Okay.
So if this
From where?
So from here. This is short because.
Okay, yeah, it's just short.
Yeah, this
so
is
this
not.
one, so
this
it's his
is-
lucky day,
Yeah, so he gets to go back.
and I get to be
Yes.
his the person that can release him. Bye, fella. Oh, he's pinched. This one's too small.
Oh, you gotta check to see if it's a female.
Oh,
Is it a
because it's a
female?
different measure on that?
No, if it's a female
Oh my gosh.
egg-bearing lobster.
Look at these eggs.
Then you have to notch it.
Wow, so we get to notch her.
Yeah.
Not only is she too small, but she gets a notch.
She gets a notch and she gets to be thrown back.
Oh my gosh, so how do we notch her?
So these,
All right, girls, your lucky day.
some people do it a little bit differently. Some people use this to cut in the tail, but some people take this flipper like this
Uh-huh.
and kind of pinch it with their thumb.
Okay, so that's plenty of a notch?
Yeah, that's a pretty big notch.
Okay,
You
all
want
right.
you don't want to make them, you know,
Right, you don't wanna
super
make it so it's hard to
big. You
swim.
don't- Right.
Okay, I'm gonna be gentle with her so I don't knock her eggs off.
Yeah, what I do actually, a good rule of thumb
Yeah.
is to flip
Upside
her,
down?
flip her on her back.
Yeah, okay.
So that the eggs don't disperse everywhere.
Okay, here we
Yeah.
go. There she goes.
So just push it straight out. Yes! Count on it. It's gonna go straight down. It's gonna sink. Good idea. I don't want to lose the gas.
I know, I just feel like these hooks are at risk. Is there anything else that you guys do for conservation purposes or
We
anything?
measure lobsters and throw them back, so that helps us keep the fishery sustainable.
Yeah.
As far as like the environment, and we definitely work to keep our oceans clean, healthy, and thriving because that's how we make our living.
Yeah.
And everyone wants their kids to be able to continue on with the family tradition and kind of keep the heritage.
So there is a lot of pride in handing down the tradition to your kids and stuff
Yes.
around here?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
My dad says that even though I might not remember it, I've been on a boat like a couple weeks after I was born in a car seat on the floor of the wheelhouse.
Oh, wow.
So-
So you've always been on the water?
Always.
And you were born on
the
an
water.
island, so.
Yeah.
How often do you go fishing?
In the summer, I would go in every single day, Monday to Friday.
So when did you decide you wanted to be a fisherman?
Probably a couple of years ago. I always went back and forth with like what I wanted to be when I grew up.
Uh-huh.
It always changed, or I was undecided.
And what were the other things you thought about?
So when I was a lot younger, I wanted to be a fashion designer.
Oh, okay.
Because I dressed pretty well.
Uh-huh. So tell me about your dad.
He's the best dad that I could have asked for, because he's given me like all this stuff that I couldn't have ever dreamed of. And he's the one who's taught me how to go fishing. He's taught me like how to weld. He's taught me how to be myself. And he's just the best dad.
All right, you see those? There's a school of fish right there. You get lunch? You want your lunch before we get going? All right, find your mother.
So some of those times being out with your dad and your brother on the water are pretty magical?
Very. Because it's just, I mean, it's always been something that I've always done. Like, there's not a time that I don't remember being close to the water. And it's just like something that we have, like nobody else has it with us.
Do you think it takes a certain kind of person to be a fisherman?
I think what someone needs is a lot of hard work.
To me, it's a big thing to carry on the heritage. I personally am in love with the ocean and the way of life. It's funny, each generation, the way of life sort of changes, but the ocean remains the same, you know, or the love for the ocean. It's a hard thing to get rid of if you did want to let go. A lot of people will say they had enough of it and they'll go to land for something. Yeah, but they usually end up coming back.
Yeah, what is it? Why do people coming back?
For me, even like if something's bothering you on land, the water's always always home.
It's a hard job, isn't it?
It's hard, I guess.
I mean, I've heard a lot of people get injured and stuff, like it's rough.
Yeah, it's definitely hard physically, but it seems to work both ways. A lot of people, or at least people in my family that just keep going, they seem in pretty good shape at 85 and 90.
Yeah.
And then the minute they stop going, they fall apart.
You're a fisherman. How old are you?
I'm 100.
100?
Yeah.
So you're born in 1920?
Yeah.
1920.
June 6th.
June 6, 1920. And so what's your secret to life?
Well, you gotta keep moving.
Uh-huh.
Because if you didn't, you know, you wouldn't be able to. You know, at my age, if I didn't, you know, keep moving, I wouldn't be long and I wouldn't be able to. I'd probably be in an old wheelchair or something. That's not for me.
That's not for you, is it? And so how often do you get out on the fishing boat?
We go 3 days a week.
3 days a week?
Yeah.
Like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, something like that?
No, we go like Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. I always say, well, I probably lived a different life than most women.
Yeah, I suspect you have.
Yeah.
I don't think most women are fishing at 100. What time did you get up, you know, all those years fishing? Did you always get up pretty early?
Oh, well, yeah, we usually get up around 3 o'clock.
3 in the morning?
Yeah.
And do you have breakfast?
A donut is all I like.
A donut?
Yeah.
So the secret to a long life is donuts in the morning, right?
Yeah, donuts in the morning. And don't get too fat.
Uh-huh.
I was always on a boat because we lived on the island, and of course they had to go to the mainland to get some things for the store and all of that. So I've always, all my life, been on the water. Grew right up to it. From the time I was born.
What's it mean to you when you get out on the water?
See, I grew right up on it all my life.
So you don't know any different?
No, don't know the difference.
What kind of characteristics does it take to make a good fisherman?
Hard work. Of course, it used to be a lot harder than it is now because now you with a hydraulic high stuff.
Oh.
Now, that makes a big difference.
Yeah, before that, it's all by hand, right?
Yeah.
Did you used to have to haul them by hand?
Oh, yes. Now, today, I wouldn't advise anybody to get in the fishing business.
Fishing is the most dangerous job in the United States.
It
right?
is?
Yep.
What's so
usually,
dangerous about it?
You're out there on the ocean, and no matter how good our weather service is, things pop up. And suddenly you're out there, you thought you were gonna have 5-foot seas, and suddenly you're at 15. And you make one mistake on that boat, and you're in trouble. All these traps around us have got weights in them. When you're hauling them up and down off the ocean bottom, they're extremely heavy. We routinely have people that are injured through ropes, moving too fast. They get stuck on stuff. If you're in a group of 10 fishermen, one of them is going to be missing a finger. Every one of them has got shoulder issues. They all have knee issues. Lower back issues. It's neck issues. They are surrounded by diesel fuel a lot, and loud engines, so a lot of them are hard of hearing. You are surrounded by stress from the moment you hop on that boat, and one bad decision could mean the difference between life and death.
Ah, boy. Yeah, you're gonna have times, you're gonna have loss at sea. This is gonna be difficult. His name's Gary Tharp Johnson. And we started together. The boat I ended up captaining, and we started on deck together. And we went to school together. He comes from a fishing family. And him and his son friend went out. And he called on the radio. And he says, I'm in trouble. We're sinking. I said, where are you? And I was 25 miles from him. And then he says, I gotta get the F off this boat. His son got off the boat and his friend, but he didn't. What happened was they were steaming along and working the deck, and they just getting ready to put the fish down the fish hole. When they opened up the fish hole, they looked down, there was 2 feet of water in the fish hole. His son says, we got water in the fish hole, Dad. And Hopper went out, looked in the fish hole and turned the pump, went back to the wheels, turned the pump on. And then when he opened up the engine room cover, there was 2-3 feet of water in the engine room. His son, Garrett, said he ran right out, got right on the radio, because it was rushing in like a waterfall. He was getting the survival suits. We have survival suits. That's the first thing you do when you know you're in trouble. You know you're gonna have to be in a ship, you get that survival suit on. Because either way, you're gonna probably enter the water. Life raft or no life raft. The survival suit will save you. It'll keep you warm and dry. It'll keep you afloat. Those 3 things. So the survival suits on that boat were down forward in the bow area. He ran down forward to grab survival suit and he threw it up to his son. His son caught it and threw it out to his friend out on deck. Then he went down forward, grabbed the other one. And that's when she went. The boat went down about 2.5 minutes. You don't have much time. And his son held the wheelhouse door open until he ran out of breath and he had to swim the surface, but his father never made it out of the boat. And then the Coast Guard and Maine, a couple other fishing boats, we did grid searches. And I looked for him for 2 days. Over 50 hours, you're just hoping to bring somebody back. They weren't closed up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the hardest part for a fishing family. If you lose a loved one out there, the biggest thing is to be able to bring them back home.
Yeah.
When you don't bring them back home, there's a it just creates a big hole in the whole community.
Yeah, of course.
You know, you ruin a family when that happens.
Yeah.
The father, son,
How's his son doing now?
he's sculpting.
Yeah?
You get back on the boat,
Yeah.
he's still fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if
Yeah.
that makes him feel, I wonder if he feels closer to his father being out fishing.
Probably, I would think. He's still out there.
It's not just that they are constantly in danger out on the water that can like lead to anxiety and depression. It's that they all know somebody who's been lost, right? And the entire family has to know every time that they get on that boat that there's a chance. And my wife doesn't have to deal with that when I get up to walk down the hall to stare at a computer for 8 hours, right? And that makes it really hard on communities. It makes it really hard on families and the fishermen themselves. And they have to shoulder that burden. And after we talked to fishermen, we brought counselors in. We tried to do everything that we could to try and help guys. And most of them just were like, I just need to go fishing. I need to get back on my boat because if I don't, I might not ever do it again.
The ocean is a pretty unpredictable place. A lot can happen quickly, and things that you can't always be in control of, whether it's something that happens on the boat or something with the weather or the wind. And so, you know, you really have to be paying attention when you're fishing, whether you're offshore or inshore. It doesn't matter if you can see land. So there is a low level of stress for all fishing families at all times because you're just constantly thinking about your loved ones out on the water. I love raising my family as a fishing family. My husband is hardworking and passionate about his job as well as the environment that he gets to work every day. And I am thrilled to see our daughter following in his footsteps because I can see the pride that she has for the industry as well as the ocean, and you know, the idea that she can be responsible for a boat and being out on the water, that she's learning how to build traps with her dad, and she's, you know, really a part of the community. And so it's absolutely amazing, but also a little bit nerve-wracking just because of the inherent risk in the industry.
Is there a lot of mental illness in the fishing world?
I think that there's a lot of depression in the fishing industry,
Why?
and there's a lot of anxiety in the fishing industry.
I can see anxiety. That just makes sense, right? It's a hard job. You know, you don't know what you're going to get for your catch. It's you have good years and bad years, much like farming.
Yep,
Very much I think
so.
with small
Very much
farmers,
so.
it's a lot of stress. So I understand that. But why depression?
So if you were to go on your computer right now and Google farmers and mental health, you would be thousands and thousands of articles about dairy farmers feeling this, more mental health resources needed. You know, cattle farmers, this happened, more mental health resources needed. If you Google fishing and mental health or fishermen and mental health, all you'll get is recreational fishing is a great way to, you know, overcome mental health issues. And our industry, the fishing industry, is actually very dehumanized because of the way that it's spoken about in the media and the way that it's regulated. So oftentimes when you're talking about the fishing industry or you're reading about it online, it's talking about the gear management and the boats and the ocean, as it should, because the ocean's important. But oftentimes the fishermen are not necessarily a big part of that conversation, and they are definitely not part of that conversation when you start talking about food systems. People know food comes from farmers, but they think fish comes from the ocean. And if you don't have fishermen as part of that food system, that connection to understanding where your seafood comes from, it can be very demoralizing.
God gives grace to the humble and resists the proud. Pride can take you places you really don't want to go. Wherever you make a lot of money, the parasites are there. You take young fishermen that work hard and go hard, and there's always that group of people that's there ready to prey on them when they come in and have that handful of money. You take a young man, 21, 22 years old, and you give him $6,000 or $7,000. It's like burning a hole in his pocket. And what's he gonna do with it? And then you've been out there, you've worked 10 days or 12 days hard until you hurt, and you feel like it gives you an attitude of your old time. And there's a bar room on every corner. It's a real problem along the coast. When you follow the money, there's always the other stuff that goes with it. You work hard, you play hard.
I ran into a rough patch when I was younger. I started dabbling and, partying and, kind of it set me off track a little bit. But, and I hung out with an older crowd and wanted to fit in and be cool and just made a lot of bad decisions, and I ended up getting into some trouble. And
You mean health-wise or something?
No, as in like I went to jail and prison. I got mixed up and I was trafficking and I got caught and
What was that like, being in jail for 4 years?
it was terrible.
It wasn't the way I was brought up here, but you fall into it. I got caught up in it, I done the whole scene, the drugs, the alcohol.
You tried all that stuff?
Oh, yeah. Drinking, cocaine,
Yeah.
pot,
Yeah.
and
The stuff was around.
it was around. I had guys with me that were hooked on heroin, and, and at the end of it, we just couldn't take them anymore. When you're in your mid-20s or 30 years old, there's a craziness that any challenge, I'll do that. And it takes later in life before you realize a lot of mistakes you make, a lot of mistakes.
It was the worst experience of my life. I mean, I guess I can't say the worst because I'd have to say going through, the terrible addiction of drugs was probably the worst thing that I've gone through. But prison was pretty awful. It was probably, my lowest point.
Was it lonely?
It was very lonely, yes. I didn't make many friends in there because I just had this mindset that I wanted to get sober and, when I got out, I was gonna change my life around and that was pretty set in stone for me. And there was a lot of people in there that just didn't have that mentality. It definitely taught me, never take freedom for granted. I mean, being stuck in a small cell with no one to talk to is definitely wearing. It's very lonely.
I've met generations of fishermen, each one unique, but all sharing an undeniable connection to the sea. In these waters, they find not only their livelihood, but a sense of belonging and well-being. At the same time, their work on the water is a source of struggle, hardship, loss, and pain. It's not a simple relationship, this union of mankind and the sea. And it's made still more complex because this vast expanse of water, upon which we all depend, is not infinite in its bounty as our ancestors once thought it to be. It too is in need of care and preservation. This reality is well understood by the brave men and women I've had the honor to meet here, who understand they must balance their need to make a living with the conservation of these fisheries for generations to come. They must work to protect this resource so that they can pass on this way of life to their children and grandchildren.
Anytime you're talking about natural resources and people wanting to use them, there's always going to be a controversy that pops up somewhere along the line. My job is I'm the executive director of the Maine Coast Fishermen's Association, and so I do a lot of policy work. I do a lot of strategical organizing of how we kind of bring fishermen together to create a better future for the marine environment and our coastal communities in Maine. A small group of fishermen in Port Clyde, Jerry Cushman being one of them, decided that They needed an organization that could bring them together.
Someone to
how do you-
represent all the fishermen and all
If
the
you've got
issues.
all these small boat fishermen up and down the coast of Maine who believe in conservation and stewardship and building a
they?
better future, very much so.
Like they're not just
Oh,
fishing
yeah.
for the day. They all have an awareness of the value of the ocean and taking care of it.
So one of the reasons why I am running this organization with fishermen is because if you want to create real and lasting change, you need the people who are using the marine resources to be bringing the solutions to the table. And so what we're trying to do is, the fishermen were the ones who started it, but we are trying to empower them to get that voice of conservation and stewardship louder and heard over and over again. But, to be really blunt, like, these are all multi-generational fishermen. Like, they know if you lose a fishery, the next generation loses it, and the generation after. And so what they've seen in their communities is, as people have made mistakes and we didn't know enough about biology or management, we lost entire fisheries. We lost entire communities because of those mistakes.
So when you were a kid to 7 months ago, 8 months ago, how had fishing changed?
Less fish.
When did you notice the fish population start to fall off?
I'm going to say early in my career, probably in my 20s, 30s, and that. It started before my time, in my father's time, at the end of his career. That's when overfishing started, back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Then when 90s came around, it was from like 1990 to 2000, it was
Slim pickings?
Slim pickings, yeah. We were drilling on 1,500 pounds a day. When, I started my father, you go out and drill on, average like 2,500 pounds a day.
Oh, okay.
So
it got cut in half in the 90s.
pretty much cut in half, right? So it was overfished. I agree that we do need regulations if we're going to preserve the resource and guarantee it's going to be here for the next generation.
Yeah.
We need regulations. You can't just be the wild, wild west. We will catch them all.
We all fish differently, so, and then we all look for the solution to be the least impact on me and how I fish.
Right. Just about all fisheries impact the other fishery in some form or another, whether it's negative or positive.
When we have to fall in compliance to a rule, that's when we run into issues. How do you get into compliance and how do you get there? And these are the methods and these are the tools that you do. And rarely ever can we agree on, what tools to use to get us there.
Well, I think a lot of times it's because some issues impact other fishermen more than others. So then it becomes a disagreement how to approach that, how to fix it at the end of the day.
We're all generation fishermen. We're 6, 7, 8, we're gonna have 9 in the fishery. And we want to keep that tradition going. And we know to keep that tradition going that we need sustainable fisheries, and that's how we think, and that's what we want. We want fisheries to be sustainable. All I know is I'm 51, and my time on this earth is getting smaller and smaller. And how do I want to leave this earth when I leave? I want to leave it in a better place, and I want to leave the fisheries in a better place. The fisheries have been good to me, been good to my family, and I just want to leave them in a better place. Ground fishing is not in a good place right now, not at all. Lobstering is in a decent place in different fisheries. But I hope that fishermen realize when you have a resource that's rebound and that you can go harvest and make a business plan on that, you're in a good place. When you have depleted stocks, you're not in a good place, and you can't make a business plan around that. And that goes with all fisheries. Once you have the resource, everything else actually should come fairly easy.
When I was using drugs and when I was out there, doing my thing and, partying and, doing what I was doing, I was not really thinking about myself. I was not focused on, what I really wanted and what I was really connected to. They brought us to the beach one day from prison, and I had no idea where we were going. They didn't tell us, it was just kind of spur of the moment thing. And I smelled the ocean and the salt water, and I just broke down into tears. it felt like, you know, I'd just been lost for so long. And it was just like, it was a relief for me to know, like, this is what I belong doing. So when you grow up and you learn a little bit about life and, you know, you've been to some places that you know, you never thought that you would go, not the best places, it really makes you learn, you know, what you should be grateful for. And I should have been a lot more grateful for the upbringing I had here on the water.
How does it feel now to be here and be in this place in your life where you've got your own business and you're building another business with the oyster farming, and here we are on the water? How does it feel?
It feels so good. I always thought that I could have been so much further along, but I'm just grateful for where I am right now. And, you know, I know I've done everything right to get this far.
If you don't go through the valleys, you never get to the mountaintop.
Yeah.
You got to go through the valleys. It creates character. It's perseverance. Persevering through the tough times builds character.
Yeah.
And character is who you are.
Yeah.
My son lobsters, but his son, Douglas, he left his father's house when he was 14. And so I put my time into him. He went a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
He had a big battle with heroin, and he went a bad way. Last year, he ended up in jail for 6 months. Went to rehab, and he come out of that rehab a changed person.
Oh, that's great.
Unbelievable, the change. One of the family members didn't want to go lobster anymore. He set him up in his boat and his gear. He just worked 17 days straight without a day off. He loves it.
How old is he?
He loves it, 24.
And now he's got his life straight.
He's got his life straight.
And probably in no small part to the fact that you devoted your time
Well,
to him.
We went through a lot.
What is it that draws everyone back to fishing, do you think?
It just gets in your blood, as they say. Like, it's just like salt water runs through our veins or something. People always say that fishermen are kind of like a different kind of breed.
So far, one thing I've learned for sure is that every single fisherman I've met, they're gonna do it forever.
Yeah.
What is it about that? Is it addicting?
I should be able to answer that pretty easily, but it gets in your blood and you just can't get it out.
Fishermen are people of very strong values. The things that they value are hard work, compassion, and dedication. And so I don't see eye to eye with fishermen on a lot of other political issues, right? But I can always find places where we are going to agree when it comes to how we should manage our fisheries, things that we care about when it comes to our communities and our environment. And you know, that's where you start building the solutions. The fishermen that we worked with, the fishermen that hired me, you know, I needed to come in and work my ass off for them, and that really mattered. They make their living by working, and I've never met a group of people who work harder and then put in the extra time to try and make things better. And that is just one of the most inspiring things about working with these people and working with fishermen up and down the coast is they will have worked a harder day by 3 in the afternoon, and then they'll come to my policy meetings, and then they'll come to project meetings, and then they'll engage in the pieces of my work, and it's inspiring, and it is exhausting. My job is the greatest job I could ever have imagined, because every day I get to do something different. I get to be around people that really inspire me, and I'm trying to solve really complex problems with really smart people. You look at this next generation of fishermen who are coming up, you know, like that work ethic that is instilled in them from such a young age, like even working for my dad, you know, I was complaining to him about having to be at work at 6 a.m. And these are kids who are waking up excited to get on a boat at 4 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
And like that's really
that's
amazing,
pretty amazing,
right? And so
yeah.
if I could have my kids like learn that work ethic, I just think it's, you know, whether it's they stay in fisheries or not, like learning how to work is such a valuable piece of the equation in our lives, and it's really hard to learn how to work.
You know, most people would never get a chance to see what I've seen in my lifetime. Seeing what comes up in that carding still thrills me this day. You know what I'd do if I won the lottery?
What?
People ask me.
What would you do?
I'd have a 50-foot dragger built, the best one that you could ever build, with the least amount of maintenance. And I would teach a young person how to fish it for a year or two, and just say, here, now she's yours. Go make a living. Have a family, make a living. That's the contract.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
You'd hand that legacy down to someone else.
Right.
Well, that's a loving, that's a very loving
Now
thought.
I feel good because I left something behind.
Yeah.
Now I'm ready
Giving
to move
someone
on.
else the life you had
Right.
and have had.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. I have a lot of pride in what I do. I have no regrets. None.
Yeah.
I believe in what I do.
Yeah.
You know, back in the day, it was definitely different than what it is now. You know, I would give anything if my father could see how we treat this fishery now compared to the old days. It's definitely cleaner.
Yeah.
You know,
You treat it better now than back in the 80s when they were overfishing.
Right. Well, you know, he thought it was an endless supply.
Right.
You know, I was there, I was a young fella, I witnessed it.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't think it'd ever run out, or, you know, Foster's gonna stay wide open.
Right. But once you
It
learn
didn't
that
happen.
once you learn it's a limited supply,
Right.
you got to take better care of it.
Right. Now we have, with the way we do it all in our gear now. Big change is what I told now compared to what my father and my grandfather told. So all the juveniles are being left behind to grow up.
Somebody asked me when I was, they said to me, what do you go lobster for? And I said, because I want to. And they said, well, when you going to retire? And I said, when I die.
And you'll only think about it then, right?
Yeah, I said, when I die.
After spending time with Krista, Alex, Randy, Ben, Doug, Virginia, Jocelyn, and others, I find that their story is, in every sense, an American story. They're united in a common bond forged by hard work and struggle. They get up before light and go to work in wet, cold, and harsh conditions, spending all day hauling heavy traps, nets, and equipment. They're proud of who they are. They don't want anything they haven't worked for, but they also want to be allowed to earn their living without unnecessary complexity. Those I've met who've spent any real time on the sea have lost members of their family or their community to the unforgiving depths offshore. And each loss brings sadness and melancholy, but also manages to draw the community still closer together. Perhaps counterintuitively, these losses do nothing to distance these hardy people from the sea. All who've spent their lives on the sea told me that they'd not have it any other way. That they'd spend their every remaining day working on this water. None spoke of retirement, and many even spoke with pride how their fathers worked until their last day on the water. I learned so much here as I stand on this craggy shore. Time seems to play no role here in this ceaseless, tumultuous dance of foaming, watery crests. There's no room for trifling thoughts, nor the luxury of fantasy, nor empty words. This is, to me, the thing most real. It depends on nothing, forgives no mistakes, makes no exceptions, and rules over the whole planet with inconceivable power and glory. Souls once drawn to it are forever ensnared in the cold splash of immovable truth. Even as their lives are lost, their spirits remain close to its shores, like old stone lighthouses, staring with a fixed gaze into infinity. The sea is the place where our human existence seems most irrelevant, which frees us. For we cannot even pretend to be great, and thus are released from such trivial thoughts and efforts. And maybe this is why, in the presence of something so furiously strong, I am released and can rest fully and feel my heart fill with a warmth which knows no boundaries.